Classic WoW has a big problem and it's not going away. You know what it's called? It's called everything. Like, literally everything in the game is a problem. It's a completely degenerate game. Probably the most degenerate game I've ever played.
So I've been thinking of making this video for a little while now. As of today in WoW Classic, we have the whole hardcore scene that's been growing, and the official servers for that on their website.
Until yesterday, right? Because, like, that guy destroyed hardcore. I heard from Blizzard, they said they're going to cancel the servers. They saw what happened, and they just think it's better for everybody to just kind of completely, just kind of forget that this happened.
Hey,
yeah,
we've seen many players heading back to Classic era for some of that original vanilla flavor, and in Wrath Classic, the penultimate phase in
really
Trial
cool.
of the Crusader has recently
Holy
dropped.
fuck.
All in all, there's
That was
quite
a
a few
Hurricane video,
choices
right?
for the Classic WoW enthusiast. But what happens beyond these new game modes and Wrath as an expansion is not yet confirmed. We do know Blizzard are planning another seasonal, presumably vanilla server down the line, and it certainly feels as though Kata will be a given, right? And
I don't think they should do Cataclysm. Like, if they do Kata, I'll play it for content. But, like, I don't really give a fuck about Cataclysm. Like, I played Kata probably more than any other expansion ever. Because that was, maybe Miss Pandaria, I played it more, I don't know. But, like, that was, like, whenever I was, like, unemployed and, like, you know, going to community college part-time.
how Classic has worked so far
just, like,
has set
graduated high
precedents
school.
as for how Blizzard are probably going to be doing things in the future, such as the game releasing on its last patch configuration
I've
for
been out of high
the
school for a
most
while,
part. Class balance doesn't change, many of the updates made during the expansion are there from day one, and we know
It was Bodegro Simulator, did you notice? He didn't click the cube.
what there is to look forwards to in the future. Blizzard have even said in the past that they've chosen to do things this way because it's the most complete version of the expansion, and one that represents the lessons learned during it as for class balance and so on. It's also going to save them a ton of work. I mean, do Blizzard really want to rebalance each class during every major content patch?
No, they shouldn't do that.
I highly doubt that they do. And I feel that overall this has been positive for the game. You know what to expect for future content. You know more or less which classes will be performing well. It's not been
Death
a
Knight
perfect
is so
track
crazy
record,
good.
don't get me wrong, but I'd say it's been about 90% right, which seems a good ratio to me. And it lets players relive the game as it was, both the good and the not so good bits.
The bad.
One of the side effects of this design decision is a sentiment that I've been hearing a bunch since TBC, and now even more in Wrath. And that is, outside of the launch phase, for those playing the game even semi-regularly, there isn't a ton to do in the game besides the raiding content. People wish that there were more goals that they could throw their character at beyond finishing the raid lockout for the week and thinking, maybe I should start an alt. And it's not an unreasonable point to reach, even for more casual players. After all, World of Warcraft is an MMO with a subscription. The sub was designed to be a reason to stick around and
I hope that they don't add in, because this is what happened, right? This is what already happened, is that players are like, Blizzard, we're bored, there's no content, I'm bored, and Blizzard's like, okay, you son of a bitch. You bored? All right, well, I'll give you something to do. Here's artifact power. Here's Legion legendaries. Here's Titan forging. Have fun. Aren't you happy now? Fuck you. Absolutely not. Please do not do this shit again. Please. Just let people finish the fucking content and enjoy it for what it is and move on. It works in Final Fantasy. It works in other games. It works kind of in Lost Ark. It works in many other games. Please stop trying to make these pseudo endless grinds for people to just waste their life over so they can have some semblance of, you know, like, oh, I'm not ruining my fucking life playing this game all day. I'm getting something out of it. No, stop it. If you want to play another character, do that. But please do not give us endless MacGuffins to chase after for no fucking reason like you did in Legion, BFA, and Shadowlands. Please fucking stop it. I do not want to see this. I want to be able to play the game beat the game, say I beat the fucking game, maybe I come back and play an alt, maybe I do some achievements, maybe I play another game. But you know what? I stop playing not out of apathy, not out of anger, not out of frustration, but out of completion and satisfaction. And that means that I'm going to come back the next time and I might just do it again. That's what I think. I've seen this shit happen. It's happened once.
Feel as though there was enough content in the game to justify it, as well as to pay forwards for future updates. And whilst there will be costs for rebuilding the game onto newer infrastructure, bug fixing and so on, it's not going to be anywhere near on the same level as the development costs back in the day.
Sure.
And I'm just going to say Blizzard during Wrath has made attempts to create more content outside of raids too.
And
if this was just a plain no changes Wrath, it would be even more raid centric. Wrath as an expansion already made significant content pacing changes through the incredible abundance of well-itemized epics from heroics, raids, badges, and PvP. This was always the casual-friendly expansion, but nowadays we have the
Titan... You can hammer the Astral Plane? What the fuck? I didn't know you could get that.
Rune dungeons, or heroic plus, or plus plus, or whatever we're calling them.
Yeah, these were nice.
These drop Ulduar gear and Sidereal Essence, so you can work towards 10-man hard mode gear from Ulduar.
Wait, is it actually called Sidereal? The Sidereal actually, is that actually a word? Because that was the name of the heroes in Lost Ark. Yeah, is that actually it's an astronomy thing? Really? Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I thought it was just a bullshit made up word. Okay, cool.
Trial of the Crusader drops extra badges now that you can't run the same size on multiple different difficulties each week. End of zone quests give badges and so on. And the Heroic Plus dungeons have been good in my opinion.
Yeah.
The alternative is dungeons at this point would be pretty dead as they were in every expansion ever until challenge modes appeared in Mists of Pandaria. The changes to Ulduar are very positive as well. Once you get Trial of the Crusader on farm, it'll be 30 to 45 minutes for 25 man and even less than that for 10. And that could have been your entire raid content for the week. Also,
yeah, I think Blizzard has made a lot of very good decisions with Classic WoW and Classic Wrath. The WoW token was like, not so good of a decision. But other than that, in terms of like content pacing, releasing, the item levels, the Heroic Plus, all of that stuff, I actually think was really good.
Wrath has extended classic content in general. There is a mountain companion pet tab, there are achievements, there's PvP of course, and so on. And now that we're definitely in the second half of Wrath, I've already seen posts crop up.
I do think they should add random dungeon finder at this point into Wrath. I think they should just add it. The reason why I think they should add it is because of dead servers. Like, if there were no dead servers, then I would say you don't need it. But if you have dead servers and you can't play cross-realm, then I think it's so fucking unfair that people are put on a realm that it's like randomly 5x or 10x harder to just get a group to do something. It's just not fun. I hate the entire idea of servers to begin with, by the way. Servers should have been left in 2010. They are a technological limitation. They add no gameplay. They don't improve anything. And anything that people can get out of servers, you could get out of channels or phases, and it would be a lot better, and the positives vastly outweigh the negatives. I hate servers.
Up about opinions on this expansion which would have, well, let's just say been very hot takes about 12 months ago. I've even heard people say that now apparently this is the expansion which was the start of retail, not Cataclysm. Whatever that's supposed to mean. I mean, I don't think the modern design of World of Warcraft...
I think that Wrath of the Lich King had a lot of the things that retail WoW has. Like, Naxxramas was effectively LFR. It had hard modes. It had, like, actual hard, like, actual challenging fights. It had random dungeon finder. It's retail light. Yeah, it's effectively retail light. I don't think Cataclysm... I think Cataclysm was probably less retail than Wrath was. Because, like, Cataclysm, I know people might be like, well, that's a weird take. And, like, yeah, LFR aside, right? Because they added LFR, that kind of changes things. But Cataclysm was like, here's the difficulty curve, right? Let me see if I can pull this shit up, right? So you had, this is like vanilla. It was like vanilla. And then it went up to Burning Crusade. And then it went up to, probably went up a bit more, to Wrath. And then it went up to Cataclysm. Cataclysm raids were like 5x harder than Wrath raids. It was insane. This is vanilla, BC, Wrath, and this is Cataclysm. Like, they were fucking like, they killed so many guilds. Like, I remember there were so many, like, oh yeah, we're 11 out of 12, heroic, ICC, we're pretty good. And then they go into BWD, and they would get farmed by Magma. The guilds fell apart. They're getting farmed by normal Magma. Like, you're done. The Fireword, it's a first boss. Cata killed the Pug raid scene. I actually think I think that the difficulty of Cataclysm raids was one of the biggest reasons why people quit the game. And then also, yeah, heroic dungeons were hard too. Like, they were fucking insanely hard. Like the raids were. I love Cata raids. Sure. But here you are at 4 a.m. or 2 a.m. Watching a video about an expansion that came out 10 years ago. Do you really think you're the average player here?
Started off until Legion, and we're still a while off that, but anyways, maybe this is just a me thing, maybe it's not, but I do have a hard time really getting into anything that isn't just raiding, and I've been thinking about it, and I reckon I understand why this is. You see, if I wanted to do collections, reputation farms for older or existing content, I can do that on retail, and retail is far better suited for it. It has collection logs, legacy raid scaling, account-wide collection and progression, updates.
Retail WoW, out of any MMO that I've played, haven't played all of them, Retail WoW has a better collection meta than every other MMO put together. It's just infinitely better than any other game.
Did you eyes? Professions being split into expansions and tons more. This part of the game hasn't held up for me because it's competing with what retail can offer, and I think retail just does a better job of it.
Yeah,
it has more of the lessons learned over the years of what makes this type of content work. And I'm aware there will be people who have started their whole collections and achievements in Classic for the first time ever who won't have this, and that's good. Yeah. More power to you for that.
Yeah, I have no intention. And also, like, for a lot of people that play Classic is mainly for people that have already played like Classic before, right? Like, a lot of the people that play Classic, I think, probably have like, they didn't come into WoW because of Classic. They probably played Retail and now they're playing Classic. So a lot of these mounts, like the Ravenlord or like the White Cockstrider or like any of these other things, like, all of these are things that you can get in WoW. Like most people that farm mounts have these mounts because they're the easiest ones to get.
But what is totally unique to Classic that retail can never replicate is actually having the current expansion being, well, current. To have appropriate class balancing and spells, to get that new expansion launch feeling, to have raids release and be some level of challenge, and to have PvP seasons as they once were. Basically, what I'm saying is if I want to go make a Valanir or farm myself a Thoridal from the Sunwell, I can do that on retail, I can do it solo, and it's going to be much easier than on Classic.
Well, I think that with Valanir, like, I actually disagree with this point because I think that people want to have Valanir for the power it gives you. Like, Valanir, especially now because it's 258. Like, it used to be 245. So like, Valanir is going to be the best weapon in the game for the entire game. Like, people were already using Valanir at the end of ICC in original Wrath. So now it's even better. So it's like people are going to use it even more. So I think it's the same with Shadowmourne, right? People are going to want to get Shadowmourne because of the power. And yeah, you don't get to use it while it's current. Exactly. That's what people want. That's why people wanted to get Thunder Fury, because of how powerful it was and like how useful it was. So the difference, though, I think, is that with collecting items and like mounts and shit like that, I don't think, like, nobody gives a fuck about like mounts in the same way that they did in retail back in the day. Like, if you saw somebody on like the Zulian Tiger in like Wrath, people would like inspect them and they'd be like, wow, this guy is, this guy's a wizard. Like, I would get people, whenever I got Invincible, I would have people message me about once every 5 or 10 minutes. Man, you got it? You did it? I was like, yeah, I got it. I got it. And they're like, that's so cool. What the fuck? I want it. And I'm like, you're not going to get it. It's not going to happen. But you can look at me. And that was it. Right? Like, I felt so fucking good about it. And people would message you about it constantly. Who the fuck goes and messages people in Classic WoW about getting cool items? I never got that. Because nobody gives a fuck about it like that anymore.
But if I wanted to raid...
Yeah, like, you can't... And the reason why is that, like, all of the flexing... Like, it was flexing because of the time that it was at. But, like, now it's, like, not a big deal. Like, nobody gives a fuck.
War as it was in Wrath the Lich King, I can never do that on retail. Even if somehow I found a level appropriate guild, the class balance is all different. But I can do this in Classic. And that's why I think people these days are more drawn towards the World of Warcraft gameplay loop of Wrath of the Lich King, which is all roads lead to raid. And
well, it's also that, like, you can get the best gear in the game and you can be fucking garbage at the game. And that's, like, a huge factor that I think people don't really appreciate. Is that Ulduar is very hard compared to Naxx, but it is a joke compared to retail WoW. Like, it is just it's just not even remotely close. So the fact that you can do relatively easy raids with relatively no commitment and get the best gear in the game from doing them just by the nature of cooperation and, you know, jolly cooperation. There you go. With your guild or GDKPs, whatever you want to do, that is a massive sell. Because a lot of people don't want to invest a lot of time into retail WoW. Oh yeah, I want to go raid normal mode or heroic. Why the fuck would you do that if you could just get better gear from Mythic Plus? Why would you do that if you know that the gear sucks? You think people are going to invest, like, time every week? Like, oh, I'm going to be there on Tuesday just to get shit gear? No. People do it in Ulduar, and they do it in Naxx, they do it in TOC, because number one, it's really fucking easy, and number two, it's the best gear in the game. That's why. It's just that simple. That's why raiding is way more popular. That's why people like it.
Raiding has been, for the most part, good in Wrath so far. It's been great to see it back, because I never did this stuff on hard mode or heroic back in the day. Okay, maybe Naxxramas wasn't the best the second time around, and I'm probably not going to look too favourably back on Trial of the Crusader after many more resets, but at least it's fast.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, TOC is like a half hour to an hour commitment every week, and you get the best gear in the game. You can manage that.
Agile was, and we get to see how class balance plays out with such a huge player base, what new ways to min-max are found, which class is top, who's underperforming, and we have had plenty of surprises in Wrath. The god tier launch state of the Unholy DK, the
insane.
brief existence of the Fire Warrior, and the sudden and unexpected buffing of Feral Druids, for example. Blizzard have also made minor changes to help certain classes out through the glyph system, and are these days a little more open to helping those struggling or underperforming. Ret Palace have the new glyph for Righteous Defense, Feral's for Omen of Clarity, Warriors for Shattering Throw, and so on. And the natural gear progression of Wrath also provided a shifting meta in of itself. This stuff is all good in PvE content. Whereas setting up the game on the last patch tends to not hold up so favourably though is PvP. Whilst you can clear a raid...
Nobody gives a fuck about PvP. I'm sorry, guys. They just don't. Like, the people that care about this, it's like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a player base. Blizzard doesn't even care about PvP. If they did, they would ban the people that are hacking. But they don't. So, it's PvP Pauls. Yeah, there you go. You want to play a game for PvP? Go play League. Go play Valorant. Go play CS.
Just fine without a min-max setup.
MMO
in
PvP.
PvP it doesn't work that way because you're against other players and other players are going to pick the best thing more often than not. This leads to a very narrow meta of viable comps, often against the same people, with the near guarantee that the established meta will never change. This just kind of isn't how PvP games work. And Wrath of the Lich King's PvP participation is somehow lower than it was in TBC. I expected it to be higher as an absolute given. In Wrath Classic...
why is it higher, or why is it lower? I think that another reason is that, I don't know, I think it's harder to play your class in Wrath than it is in BC. I bet you probably had way more people doing PvP in vanilla WoW. It's because you hit two buttons. That was it. Like, maybe it's because of the balance. Like, I don't know. TBC arena gear was better. That's another factor. You're right about that. So, like, I don't know. Maybe there's other reasons too. I have not done a single arena in all of Wrath of the Lich King.
A duelist often has to be above 2k rating in 2s, and Gladiator and Rank 1 have been inflated through the roof due to questions.
No, I think this, by the way, like, this ranking is totally fine. This is completely okay. There's nothing wrong with, like, these cutoffs.
And Gladiator and Rank 1 have been inflated through the roof due to questionable practices by top players.
Questionable,
TBC
that's called
PvP,
hacking.
can I remind you, had Stun Resist, Wind Fury RNG, Mace Spec RNG, Heartbeat Resist, and random tornadoes that would break CC on Ring of Blood. That's on top of PvE players not doing arena for gear anymore as they did in TBC. In fact, it's the other way round now. Oh, and how gear works in these old expansions for PvP is such an enormous barrier to entry that just doesn't do the game any favors at all. A mandatory battleground grind where you get demolished for hours and hours upon end before you can even begin to see how your class actually plays in the content. It's unfortunate.
Well, yeah, people don't. The thing is, like, I just think that the idea of MMO PvP, it's dated. It's just dated. And I think MMO PvP is totally fine. And, like, for a game like Ashes of Creation or, like, one of these, like, large-scale MMOs, I think it's fine. But the truth is that nobody is ever going to care about it. Because it's always going to be worse than an actual PvP game. It's not going to be updated as frequently. It's not going to have the same level of depth. It's not going to have the same interest from a player, from like a viewer perspective. It's just not as good. Like, that's it. It's not as good. And if it was better, then people would play it. But people don't play it because it's not better. BDO is the exception? No, it's not. Nobody gives a fuck about BDO PvP. What are you talking about? If so many people cared about BDO PvP, then why isn't anybody watching it? Why is nobody watching it? It's a simple question. If so many people care about it, then where do they care about it? Do they care about it on YouTube? Do they care about it on Twitch? Do they care about it on Twitter? No, because they don't care. It doesn't exist. It doesn't matter because they're playing it. So you think that people aren't playing League or Valorant? Like, what's the logic in this? So you think all the popular games, nobody's playing the popular games, but they are playing the unpopular games. This is just, what the fuck is wrong with you? This is, it's insane. It's copium to the max. Oh my God. Nobody cares about BDO PvP. Who gives a fuck? I think the main thing that MMOs should have for PvP is they should make it unbalanced. They should make it large scale, and they should make it fun. That's it. You're never going to be able to balance PvP. Like, I think classic WoW was the right way of doing it.